for melodic heavy metal. This is the Signals of Intuition.
There's Lazarus Heart right there from Jim Peterik and World Stage. Singing on that track was Janet Gardner, and that's from their new album, Tigress. The man behind that band, Mr. Jim Peterik, you may know a number of the songs that he's written through the years. He's had a number of hits with 38 Special, with songs such as Hold On Loosely, Caught Up in You, Fantasy Girl, Rockin Into The Night. He also wrote heavy metal with Sammy Hagar. His other band he first had in the 60s and early 70s was the Ides of March, who have since reunited. You may know their big hit, Vehicle, and perhaps the song Jim is best known for is Survivor's Eye of the Tiger. You're listening to the Signals of Intuition, your home for melodic hard rock and heavy metal. Tonight on the show, we've got Mr. Jim Peterik. So let's get Jim on the line right now to talk about his storied career and his brand new record. Hey, Jim, it's Brandon calling from the Signals of Intuition. How you doing?
Brandon. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Windsor, Ontario, right next to Detroit.
Oh, nice. Thank you, dude.
So,
fantastic.
So, when I do these, I always like to start at the beginning of you as a musician and then work our way up to the new record. So, starting from the beginning, where did you grow up and how did you get started in music?
Oh, boy. Okay. I grew up in Berwyn, Illinois, Berwyn. Little suburb of Chicago, brownstone bungalows, rows and rows with almost no room in between them. But we loved it. We called it home. And my dad he worked at the telephone company adjusting relays by the week. But on the weekends, he was a unbelievably great sax player in a polka band called the Hi-Hatters. And I used to kind of sneak behind the music stand. And once I was old enough and learned how to play saxophone and came up there with them. The biggest fun was after the show, and I got to hang out with the boys. I was like 10 years old, and I used to go to White Castle because it was open till midnight, and eating those sliders with my dad and the boys, and that's how I fell in love with the whole musical scene, I think.
So does it start with your dad kind of giving you music lessons?
Not per se. I had a really good ear. And he would play a melody and I'd play a melody. It was simple as that. I had only about a year and a half of piano lessons when I was 7 years old, enough to know that I don't like to practice, And I learned just enough to teach myself the rest. Same thing with guitar, because I still play my chords wrong because my sisters, I had two older sisters, one who passed away and one is still with me, thank God. And we used to play ukuleles all the way to Florida, where we used to visit every summer to visit relatives. And they taught me how to play ukulele. And some of my happiest memories were strumming ukuleles, going through the Smoky Mountains and playing those corny camp songs, And I realized that when I got my first guitar that there were two extra strings. Oh, shit, what am I going to do with those? And that's why to this day I probably play the chords all wrong because I figured out what to do with those extra two strings on my own, and they aren't necessarily correct, but it hasn't held me back so far. So anyway, that was my upbringing, and then I was in the high school band, the grade school band, the high school band, playing saxophone. In fact, all the Ides of March, we've known each other. We're still together. 57 years later. And we got together in grade school. We went to grade school together like the Beatles, They used to call us the Berwyn Beatles because we have known each other for so long. And it's just really a blessing still being able to hang with the original four Ides of March and still playing shows. And it's been just great.
So that's funny. That was my next question. So how do, four friends jamming, how does it turn into a band? How do you go from just being a few musicians that know each other into building this band?
Yeah. Well, we fell in love with the ventures. Instrumental music came before the Beatles. We were learning Walk, Don't Run and Perfidia and all the really cool Ventures tunes. And we were pretty happy doing it. But then all of a sudden on Ed Sullivan, the Beatles came on and it was a game changer for so many bands and so many individuals. And just like us, suddenly we saw the path we wanted to travel, and we started. I was the main guy that started writing songs, and we were called the Shondells at the time, and we had to change the name when Tommy James came along, and we found an even better name from Shakespeare, the Ides of March. So the rest is history.
And so tell me this, you were what, 15 when you had a pretty sizable hit, right? 15, 16?
Yeah, well, 15 when I told you he was a fool, you wouldn't listen to. That was our very first brush with success, and made it to number 42 on the Billboard charts, and number one. Oh no, excuse me, I'm lying. Number 7 in Chicago. Yeah, that was our first hit. It was on the parent label. Everybody thought we were from England because so was Engelbert Humperdinck, so were the Zombies, and we had these long hair wigs that we wore at the time. So therefore, everybody thought we were from England, and we actually had to put on English accents a few times just to meet the record.
Oh, that's
company.
hilarious!
It was really embarrassing because I have a very bad accent.
That's great. So what was that like then, being in school? I mean, I was in a band in high school, and I can't imagine what that would do to me having a hit. Like that part is pretty crazy.
Well, let's put it this way. Suddenly, we were in the high school band, and the cheerleaders all liked the athletes. They didn't give a shit about the kids in the band, making their formations in the middle of the field. We were more mocked than we were respected. But when you wouldn't listen and went to the top 10, suddenly we were popular, and even the cheerleaders were talking to us. So that was really our e-ticket into the world of popularity.
And so tell me the story of Vehicle. A few years later, you guys had was it number one or top 2 or 3 anyways?
Well, it's number 1 on Castbox, number 2 on Billboard, but we always say number 1.
I mean, that's pretty close. Pretty close.
Yeah, it's pretty close. I was a freshman in college at the time, and there was this girl that I was dating. I met her at a Turtles concert. We fell in love to Happy Together. And she was 15 at the time. I was 17. And then unceremoniously, she dropped me and said, "Jim, it's been fun, but I want to date other guys." And I was heartbroken. And I was on the road with the Ides promoting You Wouldn't Listen and stuff. And I was really dejected. And I got off the road, and guess who started calling me again? That girl. And she said, "Jim, this isn't a date, but you got that cool car. You got a 64 Valiant. And would you mind taking me to Patricia Stevens modeling school?" And yeah, sure. Why not? I get to sit next to her. Who knows what would happen. Take her to modeling school. No kiss, no nothing. Shake hands. "Goodbye, Jim." And this goes on about 3 different times. And finally, I start feeling kind of taken advantage of. And I think to myself, all I am is her limousine service. All I am is her vehicle. And that word just resonated with me. I heard this horn riff because we had horns. By this time, we had the brass. And we were doing like, "I feel good." Blah, 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 And then Blood, Sweat, and Tears came along, and Chicago came along, and we were very influenced by that. So I created this track with the guys called Vehicle. And, I'm a friend. What key is it? "I'm a friend, and the strings are in the black sedan. And won't you hop inside my car?" And I knew there was something really special about this song. And our managers, producers took us in the studio at CBS Studios in Chicago, recorded the song. We didn't think much of it. We thought, oh, yeah, the dance floor fills up when we play it, but it's really not a radio song. That's how much we knew. Anyway, it comes out, and it goes to rockets to number 1. And guess who starts calling me again? Yeah, that same girl. Her name was Karen. And she said, maybe I was a little hasty, and we started dating again. And before you know it, we were making wedding plans, and we got engaged. And 49 years later, that's still the girl I'm married to.
That's amazing.
And I'm still her vehicle. And I still take her anywhere she wants to go. But she helps me, too. She's the one that set up our broadcast today. So it's one of those stories. You can't make them up. And I'm just really blessed.
Oh, that's amazing. Now, that must have opened a ton of doors for you as well, right? Like, who did you tour with back in those days? Like, did you tour with anyone crazy? Like, I'm trying to think, maybe like Hendrix or CCR or something like that?
Oh, my God. Who didn't we tour with? And yes, we did. We toured with Hendrix. Well, we played with him in Philadelphia. That was the main Hendrix state. But we also played with him in Canada. Where was that? Doesn't matter. But we were on the road constantly. When Vehicle hit number one, we were on with the Grateful Dead and opened for Janis Joplin, shared bills with the Allman Brothers all the time. Poco. We were on all these pop festivals. 1970 was a great year. I mean, Woodstock was what, 67?
I think I want to say 69, but I could be wrong. Something like that, though, around that time.
Yeah, but 70 was still in full bloom. And so that summer, we're on these pop festivals with the Beach Boys and groups that, you don't really think about right now, like Brownsville Station. I became really good friends with my good friend who passed away. But, he was just a real class guy. And we toured with so many. We didn't become real close friends with a lot of them because we just shared deli trays with the Grateful Dead. And I remember, and they were hippies, and we were these we had long hair, but we were pretty straight-laced next to the Grateful Dead, Oh,
that's funny. So jumping ahead a few years, after the Ides of March, you do a solo band, and that eventually breaks up. Tell me how you go from the solo band into Survivor. How does that transition happen? How does the band get formed?
So I left Ides of March. We kind of semi-broke up, I guess, in 73, all because Jim Peterik had other ambitions to work with other musicians, and I don't regret it because there was a path where I was led, and the future would not have been the same had I not left the Ides of March at that time, but it was very painful at the time for everyone, including myself, because I thought I would just, get out of the Ides and immediately get a record deal and woohoo, but it wasn't like that. And here the Ides were playing these major concerts and touring colleges, and I was back to playing clubs as Jim Peterik, and the Jim Peterik Band has really come down. But eventually I got signed to Epic Records and put out an album called Jim Peterik Don't Fight the Feeling in 76. And I was on the road then with Boston, who became really good friends with, and Ann Wilson. I toured with Hart, a bunch of others, but the album did not set the world on fire. And I contracted double pneumonia, and I'm laying in the hospital as the nurses pounded my chest. That wasn't too hard to take, but I was really, really sick. And but I was on these codeine pills because of my condition in the hospital. And you become very creative. And I said, I'm to myself and whoever else was here, I'm going to put together the ultimate rock band. And that's when, and as soon as I was out of the hospital, I started calling people that I admired to put together the ultimate rock band. And the first guy I called was Dave Bickler, because we were doing jingles together to make money. A lot of my demo tapes were financed by me singing, "Look out for the bull, look out for the Schlitz malt liquor bull. Nobody makes malt liquor like Schlitz, nobody." And I'd get these blue checks in the mail, man, and it was very good. And Dave Bickler, same thing. He was making money singing jingles, and I always thought he had the best voice when we're standing across the mic from each other, singing this BS about different products. The friendly skies of your land, United Airlines. That was good for me. But anyway, we got to be friends. And when I wanted to put this ultimate rock band, I called Dave, and he was very interested in coming to meet with me. And about the same day, I called Frankie Sullivan. He was in a band called Mariah, and he was managed by Bob Destocki, who also managed me, along with Frank Rand. So on the first Mariah album, there's like 4 cuts that I wrote for Mariah. They did a really great job on it. And one of the people in Mariah was Frankie Sullivan, and I went to see them, and he was all over the stage and just kicking it. So I called him, and so we had 3 guys, and then I called Dennis Johnson and Gary Smith, who were the rhythm section to the group Chase, the great horn band, led by the late, great Bill Chase, who I wrote with Bill as well for the first album, Boys and Girls Together, and for their final album, Pure Music. So we had a band, and we started rehearsing. We started playing the clubs in Chicago, and we went into the studio and recorded demos. We had Love Has Got Me, Somewhere in America, some songs that surfaced on the first Survivor album, but we couldn't get arrested. And finally, John Kalodner, in his wisdom, heard the demo, and he flew into Chicago to hear us. And we rented SIR, Studio Instrument Rentals, and we played for him. He says, well, I love Somewhere in America. He's got that really nasal voice. But I got to hear one more smash, And we had just worked out a song called 2020, and we played that for him. And he stood bopping back and forth and playing with his beard. And he goes, play it again. So we played it again, finished playing it again. 6 times we had to play Somewhere in America. And he says, I'm signing this band. And we all go to Nick's Fish Market and celebrate. And the rest is history.
Oh, for sure. Tell me this. So one song that I only realized you wrote, I know about, the 38 Special stuff and Eye of the Tiger and all the rest of it. And if we have more time, I'd love to really dig into that. But one song I had no idea that you wrote that I'd love to hear the story about is Sammy Hagar's Heavy Metal.
Oh, one of my favorites and one of my favorite stories. Kalodner kind of became my mentor in terms of putting me, he loved my writing and my co-writing. He loved to put me with other rock stars. And one of the first, actually, was Henry Paul and the Outlaws. But then he called me and said, how would you like to write with Sammy Hagar? I said, are you kidding? The Red Rocker? Absolutely. We got on a plane, and Sammy picked me up in his red Ferrari and his long blonde hair, blowing in the wind. And we're going through Marin County, and people, hey, Sammy! Hey, Sammy! He was a superstar even then. And we got to his place overlooking the Redwoods, and we just started talking. He says, well, my manager, Eddie Leffler, just said there's a movie out called, they're cutting it. It's one of those animations, and they need a title track. I said, what's it called? He goes, Heavy Metal. I go, okay, there's our target, So I tuned my low E down, like I'm doing now, and I think I was the first one to start that riff. That's pretty cool, Headbangers in leather, sparks flying in the dead of the night. It all comes together when they shoot out the lights. 50,000 watts of power. It's pushing overload. The beast is ready to devour all the metal it can hold. So, we were off to the races. By 8 o'clock, we were sipping tequila and eating at the steak restaurant near his house. So that's the story of that song, man. And to this day, he encores with it, and we're still dear friends. Yeah,
such a great heavy tune, and it totally fits. Like Eye of the Tiger does with Rocky, it totally fits that movie.
Really, it really does, and it's really one of the iconic animations ever.
Yeah, when you, I remember seeing that on TV when I was probably 12 and just going, what the hell is this?
I know what you're saying. Mancow, who's a DJ here in Chicago, said he had his first erection watching that animation. True story.
Oh, that's great. So, really quick, one album, and the way that I actually became aware of your name initially was, I think it was 2003, the first Pride of Lions album.
Yeah.
Tell me about that record. Like that album, I played to death when that came out. It was somewhere around there, like 2003, I think. Yeah. So many great songs on that. Tell me, how does a band come together? I know Toby was obviously very young when he joined the band. Tell me about how that whole band came together.
Oh, he was just a baby, really. He was. I met him at a Valparaiso Popcorn Festival the Ides played, and he was in the front row, and just watching every move. And afterwards, he introduced himself, and I didn't think too much of it until my niece said, that nerdy guy that you met. you better listen to him. He's awesome. He came over to the house and blew my socks away. And he became the singer of Pride of Lions. We co-sang. And I always said that Pride of Lions is the band I wanted Survivor to be, in that when I first designed the music of Survivor, I was trading off vocals with Dave. But it didn't. Dave was so strong, and later Jimmy, that I became really the songwriter and the keyboard man. But I always missed that duet style.
All right. Well, so you've got the new album out called Tigress, which continues your world stage albums. And I mean, every one of them, you look at the list of people who were on all of them and you go, oh my God, look at this list of musicians. It's insane that you've got on there. You know, this new one, you went with all female people, like the absolutely incredible Jennifer Batten on guitar and Janet Gardner from Vixen. And I mean, the list goes on. How did this specific album come together? Was this Serafino, or was this just you taking your previous thing and running with it?
That's funny, because Serafino emailed me and says, this about a year and a half ago, Maestro, it's time for another world stage album. I said, you know what? Yeah, but I'm not ready. We just put one out, it seems, and we put out a Pride of Lions record. And how about, and I'm thinking on my feet, how about a world stage for women? And we'll call it, I got it, Tigress. And he stopped and said, yeah, I like that idea. And boom, he green-lighted it, sent me the contract, and I started calling some of my favorite singers, you know. And a lot of the singers, some were in town here, like the amazing Kathy Richardson of Jefferson Starship, who I've known. I actually discovered her when she was 19. She has come a long way, loved Janice on Broadway and different stage plays, but right now, she's the lead singer of Jefferson Starship and just tearing it up worldwide. And Janet Gardner, didn't think I could get her because she was one of my favorite singers when she was a part of Vixen. And my goal with that song was to kind of recreate that kind of song. And I had it demoed. I demoed it with Kathy and sent it to her. And she says, I'm in. And that was the kind of project it was. People like Abigail Stanchman on fiddle, Kate French, who was she was a heavy metal singer until she met me and became this diva, you know, on songs like Tigress and then all the way from Florida, you know, Chloe Lowry, who is just a force of nature.
I was going to ask you about her because since I've had this promo, the one song I cannot get out of my head is Prom Night in Pontiac. I've listened to it, I don't know, 20 times. I've shown it to multiple friends. I'm like, you know, and me, I'm more of like a metal, hard rock, AOR, you know, sort of that side of things. But that song, it walks this beautiful tightrope between almost country, pop, but it's a rock song.
Well, so true. So true. And I'm glad it spoke to you like that. Everybody, you know, I've only been doing interviews since this week, Monday, you know, till now. And everybody seems to pick a different song, but everybody's pretty universal on how much they love Prom Night. And we have fans of a cappella with Shay Kane and Tigress and a lot of the Kathy stuff. I like Lazarus Heart with Janet Gardner an awful lot.
Oh, it's a great one. That's my other favorite.
Thank you. And, you know, the gals had to sign off on all these. And it wasn't like, it's not like Jim Peterik saying, you're doing this one. No, I had to make sure they loved it and could really get behind it. Brave is Beautiful with Leslie Hunt, who I discovered her when she was 15 and worked with her. And now she's about to release her own album, produced by our keyboard player, Christian Cullen. Man, the names are just going, woo, like pinball.
Of course.
But, anyway, I'm really proud of the record, and all the girls just brought their A game, you know. Walk Like Royalty, Kimmy Hayes, and Nilly Brosh on guitar. I'm wondering if we have any other Canadian content on this. But, man, I'm just really proud of this record.
Yeah, I mean, just, you know, the prom night thing. I mean, especially being from right next to Detroit, and I'm listening to it, and I'm going, wait, Ohio, this. They're not singing about Pontiac, Michigan, are they? And sure enough, you know.
Why not? We got to give Pontiac its day in the sun, you know?
Oh, that's great. So besides the new Tigress, you had Pride of Lions, I think 6 months ago was your 7th album, I think it was, that came out.
Yep.
What else can we expect from you in the future? Is there anything you can talk about that's in the pipeline that you're working on?
I'm done. No, I need a break. Well, there are some things. I'm just finishing up writing with the group Chicago.
Oh, amazing.
And they're doing a double album. They're doing one release and then another one a few months later. But I've been writing with Robert Lamb for that, and that's been a labor of love. Believe me. I just got through writing 2 albums with Dennis DeYoung, formerly of Styx.
Oh, that's right. You did the new album with him as well.
Yep, 26 East. And he literally lives 3 blocks from where I am. Of course, he's in the gated community. I'm with the peasants. But but he's a dear, dear friend, and we stay in touch like all the time. But, as far as other things... there's a few things that I don't want to jinx, but some good things in the pipeline.
Keep an eye on you for sure then. It sounds like. Thanks so much, Jim. Well, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I've got to say, I'm blown away. I had a feeling I was going to like this album, but I can't tell you how much I've been enjoying this.
Oh, man. Brandon, that means the world to me. Trust me. And you're great to talk to, and I appreciate it. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Jim. Best of luck with the new album. Can't wait to looking forward to what you've got going on next. I'm secretly hoping for at least one more Pride of Lions album. So,
oh yeah, that'll be next year.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Mid-year we'll start it. Yeah.
Very cool. All right. Well, thanks again.
Thanks, Ben.
Have a good one, and hopefully I'll catch you on the road at some point.
Please. Thanks, Brandon.
All right. Take it easy.
Bye.